this was decided.
You really think you can change the future?
All of this was decided.
The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
Good tidings, ladies and gentlemen of the Lodge, and welcome back. Today we are talking Kingdom Hearts 4 and the possibility of this game being released on the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2. Now, of course, before we continue further at all, please do take note that this video is sheerly speculation and should not be taken or referenced as fact. However, with that said, there have been a few updates and news releases as of late that would allude to the fact that Kingdom Hearts 4 being on the next Nintendo console is at the very least plausible. So without further ado, let's check in on some of these updates and news stories that would give credence to the idea that Kingdom Hearts 4 might indeed be on the Switch 2. Anyway, let's start with this news right here, which we have discussed on the podcast already, but is relevant again when it comes to this topic. And that's that recently Square Enix has announced that they are going to switch to a more multi-platform strategy, which would include Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Now, interestingly enough, guys, if you haven't noticed, Square Enix has been releasing tons of games on all of those platforms, the Nintendo Switch included. You have games like, the Octopath series, Triangle Strategy, they've ported Nier Automata over to the Switch, things like that, Dragon Quest. So there have been plenty of releases on the Nintendo Switch, but it seems like those sorts of releases are going to be ramped up. So what could they mean by that? So I'd like to reference a story that actually dropped way back in the fall of 2023, and that's actually about how apparently it's rumored that behind closed doors, Final Fantasy VII Remake was being developed and was showcased for the Nintendo Switch 2, and apparently they're saying that it runs just like the PS5 version on a dev kit. So, we've seen a lot of talk and rumors about what the specs on the Nintendo Switch 2 are going to be, and even though there's nothing that's confirmed and nothing that's certain, we can say that it will likely fall somewhere in between the processing power of a PS4 and a PS5. It certainly won't be as powerful as a PS5, but it will certainly be more powerful than a PS4, at the very least comparable. Seeing that games like Final Fantasy VII Remake are being run on that dev kit, kind of go back to what we were saying over here, that even though Square Enix has been releasing games on Nintendo platforms, it seems like they're going to be more aggressively releasing some of their more flagship IPs at launch on Switch titles. Now again, we don't know that for certain, because if you ask me, when it comes to the multi-platform strategy that Square Enix is doing, this more than likely has more to do with bringing things to PC and Steam rather than Nintendo hardware or even Microsoft hardware. Again, I could be wrong about that, but we got an announcement just yesterday that the Kingdom Hearts series is actually going to be coming to Steam. So Square Enix right away makes this announcement, they're going multi-platform, and we see right away they're expanding their availability on PC platforms. Right? Because the Kingdom Hearts series has been available on Epic Game Store, but Steam just has a larger player base. So the Kingdom Hearts series coming to Steam, we're already starting to see this sort of multi-platform approach take place. Of course, I'm willing to bet that at launch, Kingdom Hearts 4 will be available on PC. I think announcements like this obviously allude to something like that happening. But taking it back to the Nintendo Switch, let's get into the reason why I believe Square Enix is at the very least going to have an interest in exploring the idea of bringing Kingdom Hearts 4 to the Nintendo Switch. However, allow me to say, there is a story that's been circulating. I'm seeing some buzz circulate that Kingdom Hearts is being developed for a console release, when, that necessarily isn't anything new. Here's a press release from April 10th, 2022, and if we go all the way to the bottom here, we could see right here it says, Kingdom Hearts 4, the next mainline entry in the series, is currently in development for console devices. So them speaking in pluralities and in develop for console devices isn't anything new. We have known this since April 10th, 2022. But let me get into why I think Square Enix is going to have a huge interest in bringing this to the Switch too. If we take note of this is from the Square Enix website. This is their financial results from the last fiscal year. Let's look into this right here. If we look here, you'll see that their profits are down year to date 69.7%. Now, that's not necessarily due to lack of sales. They've been pretty transparent that this has to do with a lot of projects getting canceled and them really narrowing and downsizing the amount of IPs they're going to be working with. that isn't anything new per se. Square Enix has said for a while that they're going to start focusing more on their bigger IPs with more frequent releases. We saw that when they sold off their Western studios like a year or two back, and we're starting to see that sort of play out now. And on top of that, if we take note of this story right here that dropped on May 15th, that Square Enix said that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as well as Final Fantasy XVI and Foam Stars, have fallen short of revenue and profit goals. Now, I can't speak for Foam Stars, but it's not like FF7 Rebirth and Final Fantasy XVI didn't sell well and weren't received well. These are two games that were received very well and sold millions upon millions of copies. However, they're still falling short of what Square Enix would like to meet. Now, look, they sold these games to a PlayStation player base, the PS5, which has 50% the player base that the PlayStation 4 has. Now, I don't think Square Enix is going to expect all those people with a PS4 to move on over to the PS5. A lot of those people have moved on to PC gaming. A lot of those people maybe now prefer their Switch and Nintendo hardware. The fact of the matter is, the Sony player base has been cut in half. So if Square Enix wants to meet these sales expectations, regardless of whether or not we think those expectations are fair, the fact of the matter is, if they want to expand those sales, they need to appeal and platform their games to a larger player base. And the fact of the matter is, Nintendo has the largest player base among the three consoles. So if Square Enix wants to make games for consoles and not just PC, then if they want to continue to see success in the future, they're going to have to appeal to the largest console player base that's on the market. And when we hear things about the Switch 2 having much better specs than the first Switch, and when we hear about, Square Enix wanting to go multi-platform and their games not meeting sales expectations, it seems like a perfect fit. Now, is bringing those games to the Nintendo Switch hardware going to guarantee an increase in sales? Absolutely not. But we have seen an effort by Square Enix to port a lot of their backlog over to the Nintendo Switch. A lot of the Final Fantasy games, 1 through 12, are available on the Switch. We see here, we have this effort to bring Kingdom Hearts to the Steam platform. There's the cloud versions on the Switch, but nobody asked for that. If they do things like create a native port for the Nintendo Switch 2, that's going to open up the Nintendo player base to the Kingdom Hearts series even more. Sora and Smash would be another example of this. So you can see how they've kind of started to approach this sort of multi-platform idea in the last couple years with some of the things they've been able to do. But again, if their sales are still short of expectations, and they want to go multi-platform, and they want to develop Kingdom Hearts 4 for console devices, it would make sense that in the future, they may want to bring these games over to the Nintendo Switch 2 to appeal to that player base that is larger than Microsoft and larger than Sony. Now again, it's absolutely no guarantee. I'm not saying it's a sure thing. But I guess what I'm saying is that it's not only plausible, but it would make sense for them to try and achieve and do something like this. And again, it is worth mentioning, one of the difficulties about bringing, say, Kingdom Hearts 4 to Nintendo hardware is that it still will be inferior hardware compared to that of Sony and Microsoft and PC gaming. So, it will require some extra effort to make sure the game runs well on a Nintendo Switch 2, which again can create certain roadblocks. But again, for the large player base that Nintendo is offering, it very well may be worth their while to create less powerful versions of these games that can run and be played well on the new Nintendo hardware. But anyway, that's gonna just about do it for today's video, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Landy Lodge for your little Kingdom Hearts 4 Nintendo Switch 2 update. I'll stay on top of all of this, but all of you be good out there, be good to yourselves and each other, and I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies next time.
All of this was decided.
Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
All of this was decided.
May your heart be your guiding key.